Hello and good morning. Welcome back to Just a Dash, your Houston Dash women's soccer podcast, NWSL podcast, women's football across the board, college, high school. We like to chat about all of it worldwide. I am Theo Lloyd-Hughe, always with the brilliant Laura Gomez in Houston. Laura, welcome back to the podcast. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm so happy to talk to you again and see you again. I know it's been, again, crazy couple of days for all of us. It's just been so much football, so much soccer, which is a good thing. But, you know, your hosts sometimes get caught up in everything. But we're back and we're going to get serious once again. But once again, the word once again is my word today. We're accompanied by another, amazing, I would say NWSL. Well, we need to find a word like NWSL besides journalist and reporter, like not connoisseur, but like what, NWSL historian, or is that too serious? Like what other word can we use?
Renaissance woman. That's how I would describe our guest.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we can figure it out. And if you guys have another word that we can use, we're always glad to, have some feedback from our listeners. But let's go ahead and introduce, without further ado, who is with us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am Jenna Tonelli. I cover Gotham FC. I live in the New York City area, and I think the word that should be used to describe me is probably NWSL crazy person.
Whoa.
We all have to have a little bit of craziness, I think, to be here, but I'm happy to be here for sure.
The one and only Jenna Tonelli, all the way from New York. Thanks so much for being here, Jenna.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
So, I mean, we can kind of get down to, let's talk about Gotham. What's been going on? I know, we've seen a lot of changes, and this season has started off kind of rocky. What's the sentiment over there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a bit of a confusing season. I mean, last year, the team made it into the postseason for the first time since 2013. A lot of the way that they were able to do that, I tweeted about this the other day, was through a series of ties. They had 11 ties last year, the most of any club by the time the season was over. But it was that ability to come back from behind and tie up games that really pushed them into the postseason. Meanwhile, this season, they have 12 points in 10 games. Those 12 points came from 4 wins, six losses, and 6 kind of bad losses. So it's been an inconsistent season, I think is the best way to put it for Gotham.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about 11 draws last year and then 0 this year. That's kind of interesting. I know there's been a lot of discourse around the kind of magic curse powers that used to possess the Gotham goal and kind of force goals from not going in and make them such a clutch team in those close results. Is that something that just, whether it's bad luck or whether it's impressive last ditch tackling from players like Manny Freeman or Estelle Johnson, is it just changed a little bit this year, those kind of fine margins?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it has, and it's interesting because on paper, it doesn't really look like Gotham changed that much year to year, but they did. And I think, bringing in, new players, big names, Ali Krieger on the back line, who actually has been excellent for the team, I think, on the back line, bringing in a whole new cast of goalkeepers. Meanwhile, they used to have Kaylin Sheridan, who had been with the team, aside from the fact that she, I think, is one of the top keepers in the world, she had been with the team for many, many years. And that's, a chemistry and an understanding that you build up over time. And now they're kind of having to reinvent that a little bit. So I think some of those magic moments, came from that understanding, came from knowing, okay, this defender is going to be there. I know if I kick the ball here, that person's going to be there. And I think, unfortunately, that's kind of been slow for Gotham this year to kind of regain that understanding of each other that they had last season that made those moments so magical, the Gotham goal, as it came to be known. But I think you see glimpses of it, and you see some excellent talent that that this team does have, but something kind of still really isn't clicking, and I'm not really sure what it is at the end of the day. Only they know what's going on there. So hopefully they can get it together and make it work. And I've seen it. Like, I know they have it in them, and I think that it's going to happen. I mean, the team still has 10 games. They played 10 games, right? So they have 3 games in hand on, a team like San Diego or Washington Spirit. They have 2 games in hand on the rest of the table, except for poor North Carolina that's only played 9 games. But my point is that they have time to fix this. If they can get a win against the Dash, this coming weekend, I think that will be a real important piece for them to just kind of get to the point where I think that the fans know they can be, and the team themselves know that they can be.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of talking about that, you mentioned the Dash. The upcoming game is going to be actually at Gotham against the Houston Dash. And they just came from Portland, and the score was, kind of impressive, 5-0. Not impressive for Gotham FC, of course, but how do you think the team has handled that? And how do you think the mentality is going to be going into, the game with the Houston Dash, knowing the prior score? Because there's several ways that teams handle that.
Well,
I was
just going to say, the Dash came into the international break, or the holiday break, whatever you want to call it, with a 4-1 win over the Red Stars. So these are 2 teams who have had 2 weeks to think about the last result. And, like Lara said, really tough one for Gotham, really kind of positive one for Houston.
No, it's a great question. And I think, forgive me because I forget exactly the game that it was, but I think it might've been after the away loss at Kansas City on the post game. I asked Michelle Betos a similar question, and her answer was, you can't dwell on each loss. Like, you have to just keep moving forward. And I think that Gotham, it's kind of as proof of this, unfortunately, even though their results are kind of inconsistent, they have been able to notch wins coming back from bad losses. They also lost by, actually, most of their losses have been by 3 or more goals this season, which is unfortunate, especially because last year, I'm almost positive they didn't lose a game by more than 1 goal ever. So I think they just need to have that same mentality that Beto said of just, you can't dwell, you learn and you move forward, because you can't get too highs on the highs and lows on the lows. And I think that's how the team has been tackling the games stated week to week. And I think that's kind of the only way to do it, because like you said, Houston is coming off with that amazing win. What was it, like 4-1 over Chicago? That was incredible. Yeah. So Houston is formidable. I mean, they're 4th in the table. They had that fantastic win. Gotham are going to have to really work hard to get a win against a Houston that's kind of on a great run right now.
Ife Onumonu, runner-up of the African Cup of Nations, she's been away. Christy Mewis, CONCACAF champion now, has been away. How important are these players kind of coming into Sunday's game, but zooming out as well, trying to get back up the table, like you said?
Yeah, no, extremely important. I think what I always find so interesting about the NWSL is they don't really break for international breaks. I mean, they tried to a little bit this year. There's definitely pluses and minuses to this. One of the positives is it does give other players a chance to kind of show their stuff. And we got to see that with Paige Monahan and Taylor Smith, and they both performed excellent in at least one of the games that they played during this break. But I think having Margaret Purse, Chrissy Mewis, Ifeoma Onumonu, Estelle Johnson, who all of them, I think, scored during this international break. Even Estelle Johnson scored a goal for Cameroon. So hopefully having not only that talent come back, but hopefully those players getting kind of like a renewed sense of energy and drive from having pretty success. I think all of them had fairly successful, at least individual performances during this international break. Hopefully that drive can kind of help bring Gotham up to where a team with that much talent, plus the talent that was already still there, that didn't leave for the international break. Hopefully it can help them get back up to where I think that, they should be, given the amount of talent on that team.
Yeah, and kind of, since you follow the team and you're there in and out with the good and the bad, let's highlight, let's be positive. I know the team hasn't been doing so well, but for those that are, probably just, tuning in or just, really don't know a lot about Gotham FC, give me 3 things that you want to highlight that are positive about the team currently, no matter, the results that obviously are not the best ones.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is this is a gritty team. Some of their wins have not come easy. Actually, probably most of them have not come easy, but you really see every single player, whether they're, Margaret Purse, the starter, or, a player coming off the bench. You really see that grit of this team and the drive of this team, even in the losses. And I think that makes it, I don't want to say fun because it's not fun to watch a loss, but it gives you something to root for no matter what. So I really do enjoy that. I think the team really does embody that New York, New Jersey mentality. And I think the players are kind of bought in on that. And I as a, native New Yorker really appreciate that. And it's really fantastic to see. I'm sure most of your listeners know that the team rebranded from Sky Blue FC a couple of years ago to Gotham FC. And I think that rebrand in general has been really, really excellent. And coming along with that, I think something that's really positive about this team is the fan base. I mean, I think Gotham has a really resilient fan base that stuck around during those really tough Sky Blue days. Not to rehash that, but it was difficult for the players, for the fans. But these fans know how to stick with their club. They, you can kind of go on Twitter and see some of the great tifos that supporters group Cloud9 makes for this club, and they're always there, and they're not going anywhere for the team, no matter what's going on there. And also the team is just fun. It's a great group of players, really interesting, really diverse group. They're always out in the community. They marched in the New York City Pride Parade, for example, with Cloud9, and they're just always kind of trying to, make an impact both on and off the pitch, which I really appreciate it. And they understand, I think, that there's so much more you can do with this platform than just play soccer. And I think that's really, really important. And I think the team is doing an excellent job of that as well.
Love it. Laura, thank you so much for giving Jenna a moment to highlight all those positives. Before we let you go, I want to maybe bring us back down to earth a little bit and get a little bit negative energy, or at least look at,
reality of what's going on.
The reality maybe of what's going on the pitch. And like you said, 12 games left in WSL. We have absolutely no idea in this league of all leagues what's going to happen. Gotham could very well finish in the top 2 or 3. But I do want to, talk about some of the realities of where they're at. Fewest goals scored in the league, Jenna. 7 overall. Even if you make that a per 90 stat, that's 0.7. Still bottom of the league behind Angel City with 0.8 goals per game. Scott Parkinson sort of been in the job a year now after Freya Coombe left, but this is sort of his first proper season. Like you said, a lot of changes, especially the goalkeeper position. Yeah, before we let you go, I really want to kind of check in on you from the media side, and maybe if you've got a temperature on the fan side as well. What is the pressure on Scott Parkinson? And is that something that, like you said, this talented group who maybe more was expected of them, is that something that maybe he is not the man for this job?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really valid question, and it's one that the fans are beginning to ask. And, I just mentioned how this team is really resilient. They're really forgiving fan base. But I think they are starting to kind of ask questions. And it's tough because I think that Scott, on a personal level, the players really like him. I think he brought a lot of stability to a club at a time where they were seeing, departures of their coach, of the general manager, and there was a lot of upheaval, and he brought more stability to it. But you're right. It's been a year now. The results are not where they should be when you look at the talent that's on this team and what they were able to do last year. And something's not clicking. I don't know if it's tactical. I don't know if it's just the system isn't working for the type of players are on the field. But yeah, at the end of the day, Scott is the head coach. It's up to him to find the system that works. I think there's still a chance that they can turn it around. So I'm a little bit hesitant to call for anybody to be, let go at this point in the season. But I think that, yeah, I mean, the fans want to see results. The players want to see results. At the end of the day, the buck stops with him. So I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for the team. You never want to kind of see that upheaval. Like I said, they lost their coach last season, middle of the season. So it would kind of be unfortunate for it to happen again. But yeah, they want to win, and that's on the head coach.
Speaking from your relationship with the club, though, I get the feeling that maybe it's not a decision we'll see in the next 5 games or in the next few games. It maybe is a decision we'll see in October, November.
I honestly couldn't tell you. I'm
Okay.
really not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish I could say more that I just don't know.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair enough. Jenna, before we let you go, and thank you again so much for your time, any questions for us or anything you're curious about leading into Sunday?
Yeah. What do you guys think is going to happen on the field? What are your predictions? I don't know if you do that later on in the show, but
I mean, we could do it now. I mean, my prediction is that I think the Dash is going to win. I really do. I don't think they're gonna, go with a 5-0 or something like that with Gotham, but I think that it might, be or even a tie, a 1-1 or a 2-0. But I don't see Gotham winning the Dash. If the Dash comes in with the same kind of, and there might be changes, obviously, because of what, they're coming in from like the break. But I think that if they kind of keep some of the same formation, or if they bring in the other players that were, playing in some of the other tournaments, I think that it'll be a win for the Dash. Sorry.
Football's a funny sport. I think the prediction I would make is if the Dash score first, they will win. And I think that first
that's very specific, Theo. That's very
no, but that's how it goes.
Crystal ball you're looking into.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that, Theo. I think
that first goal is really huge.
Yeah, Gotham has struggled to come back from being down a goal, and in contrast to last season where they were always able to kind of find that equalizer. So I think you're right. I think whoever scores first in this game is probably indicative of who might win that.
Well, and then just going off the last Dash game, which was, for the Houston side of things, the first under Juan Carlos Amaros, and very much felt like the beginning of a new style of play, some new tactics, some new energy. And the Red Stars came in 9 games unbeaten, really, really confident team. And the Dash just harassed them and pestered them for those first 20 minutes. And you get that goal off the high press between Shea Groom and Ebony Salmon. And if the Dash can unsettle, if Ashlyn Harris is in goal again and she makes another error, I just think if the Dash get that bite early, I really don't see Gotham coming back. But if it gets to 0-0 at half time, anything could happen.
Yeah.
And the Dash defense has been really up and down. Jane Campbell will be expected to be back on Sunday after missing the last game with COVID. But, even the Dash defense under Sarah Loudon, who played a much more defensive system, looked really, really solid. And then Amaros seems to be attacking more from the front. We don't know how that's going to go. It's only going to be a second game in charge. So I don't necessarily say it's 100% a Dash win, but I do think if the Dash get their teeth in early, I don't see Gotham coming back.
Yeah, I could agree with that, unfortunately, as much as it kills me.
Christy Mewis derby, that's the other narrative, I guess. Her first time playing the Houston Dash should be interesting.
That is right. That's true. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, they should all be back, the internationals. So we'll see her on the pitch against her former team.
Please keep us updated on Sunday from Red Bull, what the vibes are like, what you're sniffing out between Christy Mewis and her former teammates. I'm led to believe it was all quite amicable when she left. She was very much just looking for a fresh start and a new place to be, and is very much enjoying her time in New York. But obviously a very beloved player in Houston.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get too. And I think, it's New York City. What's not to love,
Who wouldn't want to be there? Who wouldn't want to make a $200,000
there, right? We can't disagree.
I'm trying to get my rights traded to New York. Jenna, look,
we'd love to have you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the pod. All the best, and good luck on Sunday.
Thank you so much. Good luck to you as well, to an extent. And thanks for having me so much.
Thank you so much, Jenna. Till next time.
Bye.
There you have it. The wonderful Jenna Tonelli joining us there from Queens, New York, covering New Jersey, New York, Gotham. You can go and follow them on Twitter. Back to the rest of the pod now. Laura, should we get a little international? You got any other Dash business looking ahead to Sunday you want to talk about?
No, I kind of wanted to point it out, and I was going to point out with Jenna on, when she was still on, but I see a lot of similarities, let's say, when she was kind of describing of the team, of a lot of grit and a lot of hustle, in the sense of getting through a lot of difficult moments and the struggles I've been through. And I was like, deja vu with the Dash too. So kind of wanted to point out that there is a lot of similarities and kind of the club history of Gotham FC with the Dash. That being said, we hope that the Dash is the one that comes out victorious from away games that we know that the team has had on and off. I think that they've done a little bit better this season, but they've been kind of not the best at playing, away games, but I think that they've gotten better, and hopefully that streak kind of continues with Gotham that aren't going through a very good moment compared to other times.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. I think Sky Blue, I kind of refer to them as Sky Blue because that's when Gotham were bad, and then they rebranded, had a very good season last year. But Sky Blue and the Dash very much shared a lot in common with kind of always being near the bottom of the NWSL. And like you said, kind of moving on from that gritty sort of underdog mentality. Gotham made the playoffs last year, something the Dash have still never done. So it goes to show that, it can take a long time to get back to the promised land of being at the top of the NWSL. What was I going to say about that though? I've lost my train of thought. I'm talking about those two teams. Oh, away form. That's what I was going to say. Yes, Sarah Loudon made the Dash very, very good away from home. Very compact, very happy not to have the ball. And I think this is an interesting test. Juan Carlos Amaros' first game on the road for the Houston Dash. That is a really good point to bring up. And he did play a very aggressive style at home. Will we see him play the same aggressive style away, or will he maybe adopt some of Sarah Loudon's more reactive, absorbing tactics? I think it'll be interesting to see. And, last week, or 2 weeks ago now, the Dash were playing a very confident team in the Chicago Red Stars. How do you set up against a team who are lacking in confidence like Gotham? So there's a lot of different things going on. Like we said with the predictions with Jenna, I think the Dash can definitely win this game. It's the NWSL. I wouldn't count on it, but there is a blueprint there to go and win the game. And by all means, I think, with Nichelle Prince back and these other internationals, Michaela Abam, Michelle Alozie, the Dash team is looking even stronger than it was 2 weeks ago. So you got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting, good game. And I love how, once again, welcome to, the new listeners, or welcome to anybody that is supporting, women's soccer with NWSL. And I'm pretty sure they're kind of like, what do you mean in true NWSL style? What do you mean this is something kind of that happens? But I think it's gotten very, very unpredictable just because of the competitiveness and the new teams that have been added. And I think that's something good, because I don't like to always know who are going to be, the 4 teams that are going to make it, or the 6 teams that are going to make it to the playoffs, or who's going to make it to the final. So I like having a league that's not that predictable in the sense of who's going to make it to the finals and who's not, and being so, head to head, that, the teams have to do their best if they want to be able to make it to the playoffs. So I think that's something that I just wanted to kind of, talk about before we headed, a little bit more to the international side of things.
I love it. No, Laura, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think, listener, if you are new to the league, it can never be overstated how competitive the NWSL is. And how exciting and how unpredictable it is. It's a great reason to watch this league. Right now, the North Carolina Courage are bottom of the league, one of the traditionally strongest teams ever in the NWSL. They have 3 games in hand. In a few weeks, we could be talking about their resurgence, their rise in the league. Washington Spirit, last year's champions, who have played 13 games. They played more games than anyone else. They're second bottom. So you're seeing a former champion right down the bottom. Like Laura said, it's competitive, it's unpredictable. Go and watch it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it has a lot of things that people should take into consideration into really watching women's soccer. Once again, we're always trying to always. I mean, I'm just like a walking kind of billboard sometimes for the NWSL and for women's soccer, kind of like, okay, have you watched this game? Have you done this? Have you done that? But yeah, and talking about women's soccer, let's go into the international side.
The big story. I've been dying to talk to you about it.
Yes,
Copa Mundial.
I know. I'm very excited. Last night, I was watching a game, and my husband was like, "Why are you crying?" I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. Yeah, I didn't even mean to either, because I was kind of mad, because I think the game, for those of you that didn't watch the game, it was Colombia against Argentina. And I watched the first half with my brother, and then I was like, no, I need to go home. I need to go take my dog out, blah, blah, blah. So I left. And by the time I got there, I got home right before the second half started, and my husband was already home, and we were watching it. I was like, oh my God, this ref is like, not it. Like, this ref is not doing it for me. I feel like there are several calls that weren't made, even one that kind of, involved the penalty. I was getting to the point of being a little frustrated because I was like, I need them to score. There's so much, so much there on the line. And when they finally scored, I was like, oh my God, they can't get scored on. I'm like, what are you doing? It was just very energetic game. I think it was a very physical game too at the end with both teams. And then with the win, the minimum win of 1-0, I just, kind of just cried. He was like, why are you crying? I'm like, because it just means so much to women in Colombia, not only to women in Colombia, but just like the women that have tried so hard to be seen, to be heard in this game. And to see that stadium that was kind of not completely packed, but to see that it was legitly, had a lot of people wearing the Colombian jersey. It was just something so beautiful and something that I had not seen consistently, with the Colombian people actually supporting the women's team. So for me, that was something that was huge. And it was just emotional at the moment, it was just something big. So I think that it's a small step. I want to say small step for history, but a huge step for women, for the women's soccer in Colombia, with everything that's going on with the league itself.
Right. I mean, I think you're touching on a lot of that there, Laura, that the news last week that I think the Women's League was going to fold or isn't going to be played. And I know the players were holding protests. And there's been a lot of conversation about the Colombian women's national team players earning $22 American a day and being really underpaid and undersupported. And I think you saw there's a little bit of tension there between come out, support these female athletes, and also let's try and make the federation support them more. And this kind of tension between what's on the badge and who's wearing the shirt.
Exactly.
And like you said, 15,000, 20,000 people there at the Estadio Alfonso Lopez last night in Colombia. I thought the scenes watching the game from home were really emotional. And I am not Colombian, but I was close to tears. Linda Saicedo Alegria, her goal was fantastic. The way she took it on her right foot to kind of destabilize the Argentina defender Chavez, beautiful. And then finished it on her left. Amazing 2 feet there. She's only 17, I think. She's a teenager.
She's super young. And that's the thing that I just feel like so much talent, and it was, it's just, for me, it's just to show the federation and the men, which are the ones that are taking the decisions right now for the future of women in soccer in Colombia, really need to realize and look at those players and really see that they're playing, honestly, they're playing with more heart, with more loyalty, with more freshness, with more talent that the men have in several games, compared to, how the men did not make it to, to the World Cup. And they have everything for them economically, and, even like where they practice and stability, and they have a lot of things that the women do not. And yet the women are the ones that are going, the right way. So it just comes to show that there needs to be more support and really open their eyes to see that Colombian women truly do have a spot, an important spot in soccer.
Absolutely. And they will be, that's the crucial thing, semi-final win. They'll be in the Copa America Femenina final, but they'll also guaranteed a spot now at the Australia and New Zealand World Cup next summer. Absolutely massive. Tough one for Argentina. They'll go to the playoff. They can still qualify, but they got to go and win the third place playoff now in Colombia this weekend. Argentina have a lot of big names as well. We've talked a lot about kind of Mariana Larroquette last year, played for Kansas City. They got some really notable names. They were at the 2019 World Cup. Colombia missed the 2019 World Cup after making 2011 and 2015. So this is very much, like you said, a kind of underdog team, haven't had the funding, a lot of young players coming through. And you feel like with a little bit more investment, with a little bit more experience, this Colombia team, who knows where they could go.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I think it's important to really know that there's like, the path has been already made, and for them to kind of cut the league now and looking at just what a couple years of having a league has really done. I mean, the sub 17, I want to say the sub 20 players of the women have also made it to the World Cup. So it's something that, yes, it's something that obviously there's more players coming, and it's something that's huge. and hopefully, some of the men or the women that are related or married or engaged or whatever with these men that are the ones in power, make them realize the mistakes that they're making and how they need to really support women's soccer, because it's something that they're passionate about, and there's talent.
There's talent. The only way is up. The second rise of Colombian women's football is here, and we are very, very excited about it at Just a Dash. Before we get out of here, I obviously want to highlight, it'll probably be over by the time you listen to this, listener, but England are playing in the semi-final today against Sweden at their own hosting. So funny, Colombia hosted the Copa Femenina. England is hosting the Euros this summer, so a lot of great football. England have a semi-final of their own. Hopefully they do just as well as Colombia did last night, and they'll be playing Sweden, who are the favorites. Very, very good team, Sweden. We saw them get the silver medal in Tokyo last summer. Anything could happen. I'm definitely not too confident, but I will say I do have a gut feeling that football might be coming home. So by the time you listen to this, listener, you'll be able to laugh at me or rejoice with me. Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, good luck. I'm going to be watching that. What time is that game?
2
so we know?
2 p.m. Central.
2 p.m. Central.
And there'll be tomorrow, which is probably by the time you listen to this, listener, Germany versus France in the other semi-final at 2 p.m. on ESPN2. And Brazil are playing tonight, I believe, as well, against Paraguay in the other semi-final.
So we'll know, exactly. So we'll know who Colombia will face. So that's another exciting thing with Brazil, because Brazil is like the queen. They are, they're it, but Colombia is hungry to show what they have. So
if they get another crowd like last night, that could be the difference. I really think that crowd last night,
was amazing.
Was huge. So
yeah, it was huge.
Exciting.
It was very, very historical, and just, I guess for me that I've been watching them for years, it was like emotionally very overwhelming in the sense of, wow, see, like, women's soccer, they do pull fans. It's just a matter of getting the word out there and really trying to support them. But let me not go on into my rant again, because I'll start crying in this podcast again. And we don't want that right now. I'm going to save my tears for when Colombia wins. Theo, it was nice to talk to you again, to talk a little bit about what we love, which is soccer and women's soccer specifically. So I hope you have a good end of your day, the rest of your day. And don't forget to subscribe in the Striker and support local journalism.
Yeah, great to see you, and enjoy the football. We'll be watching.